Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's Daf is Yud Zayin 17, and we are on Daf Tes Zayin Amud Base at the bottom, 16b at the bottom. And the Gemara brought a four-way machlokes, whether or not liquids can receive tumah to itself. Liquids can cause tumah to all other things, to no other things, even though they are tummy themselves, or only to some and not the other. And then we had a statement from Rabbi Tzvi Fischer, who said that the liquids of the Beis Mitbachaya, which means the slaughter area of the Beis Hamikdash, are dachein. They are pure, meaning that they don't become tamei. And we have machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, whether it means it doesn't even become tamei, or it doesn't cause tumah to anything else, but they themselves become tamei. And we've been trying with various proofs to prove this idea. So we're going to bring a series of psukim from Chagai and try and prove this idea. Chagai was the Navi from the Anshe Knesset Agdola who came back to Eretz Yisrael from Babylon, and at the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, and he's testing the Kohanim to see how much, after so many years of not having the Beis Hamikdash, how much of the process and how many of the halachas they remember or know in regards to the Beis Hamikdash. So Tashema, come in here. We have a pasuk in Chagai. Hen yisa ish basa kodesh beknaf bigdod. If somebody will carry, and here it means basa kodesh means a prohibited or a tamei meat. So he's got a rodent that he picked up with his the corner of his cloak, a dead rodent, his sheretz. The naga beknafo el alechem. And this word over here is going to be machlokas later, so we're going to translate it. And he touched in that which is in his cloak, or that which is in his cloak, el halechem, to the bread. Meaning, at this point, the Gemara understands it means that the rodent touched a bread, vel hanazit, and the bread in turn touched beans, vel hayayin, and then that in turn touched the wine, vel hashemen, and that in turn touched the oil, vel kol machal, and other or any other foods. Okay, hayikdash, will that become tamei or not? So again, we have the rodent touch the leg, the bread, so that's becomes a rishon, one step away from the primary. The beans the second, the wine the third, and the shemen the fourth. So that oil should now be in Kodesh. We mentioned that even though that for mundane things there's only a 2-level tumah, and for teruma there's a 3rd-level tumah, for Kodesh there's a 4th-level tumah. Vayanu hakohanim vayomru lo. The Kohanim respond and say, no, this would not become tamei. It doesn't tell us whether or not he accepted that as the correct answer or not. So now on Yud Zayin we say, "Amar Rav ishtabish kahani," and Rav said that the Kohanim were mistaken, and that really this is a Ravi Kodesh. This is a 4th-level tumah in regards to something that is Kodesh, that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, and it does become tamei. So the wine would make the oil tamei. Now, so from there we can see that both wine and oil, which are in this example, which are liquids, obviously, and they are in the Beis Hamikdash, and they do cause tumah. Not only they themselves became tamei because the wine became tamei, the wine made the oil tamei. So we see it both becomes tamei and causes tumah. Now, it could be that this would be d'Rabbanan, rabbinic, and Chagai was checking on that, but we already have the statement of Yosef ben Ye'ezer that the Chachamim would not have made a rabbinic prohibition in the Beis Hamikdash in order to not add any tumah. And the Yosef ben Ye'ezer would not argue on Chagei HaNavi, who was of the Anshe Knesset Gdola, of the Great Assembly. So therefore, the Gemara says, it seems to be proof that liquids do cause tumah. So the Gemara says, Midiu Tame Ela l'Rav. It's true that but this is the explanation of Rav. And Rav, mashke beis mitbachaya tani, ava mashke beis mitbachaya mitame. Rav makes a distinction. Even though we said that the liquids in the Beis Hamikdash don't cause tumah, it's only the liquids that are in the slaughter area, which would be blood and water. However, liquids that go on the mizbeach, midbachaya, that does have tumah. So wine and oil, which go on the mizbeach, he agrees, do receive and give tumah in the Beis Hamikdash. Tani, aval mashka sagufa. So now we're going to analyze this. Rav Amar ishtabish. Rav says that these kahanim were mistaken because this is a fourth level tumah, and the fourth level tumah in Kodesh, it becomes tabi. However, Shmuel Amar lo yishtabish. Shmuel says the kahanim were not mistaken, that they got it correct, and this is a fifth level tumah that would not have been tummy. So the Gemara explains, Rav says the Kahanim were mistaken because he had asked him a fourth level tumah, as we explained. The rodent had touched the bread had touched the beans had touched the wine had touched the oil. That's a fourth level of tumah. And they said to him that it is tahor, and that's mistaken because it should have been tani. But Shmuel says that it was not a mistake. Kahani chamishu b'kodesh. Look at the Shabbos kahani, because chamishu b'kodesh b'yaminayu, because he had asked him about a fifth level tumah. Va'amri le'tohar, and they responded that it is tahor correctly, because there is no fifth level. Even in Kodesh, there's no fifth level. So Gemara says, how did you get to a fifth? Bishlam el-Rav hainin l'chsev arba. By Rav we get it because there are four things mentioned: lechem, v'nazid, v'yayin, v'shemen. Now are the four that we mentioned, the four levels. So the sheretz touched the bread touched the nazid, the beans touched the wine touched the oil, and so that's a fourth level of tumah. But l'shmuel chamisha menale, where's the fifth one according to Shmuel? Miksiv v'naga b'knafot. Does it say that which is in the corner of his cloak touched the bread? No, v'naga b'knafo. It touched in that which touched his bread, his corner. So in that which, ksiv, meaning the rodent touched something that touched the bread. So we're starting off already in a second level. The bread's the second, the beans are the third, the wine is the fourth, and now the oil would have been the fifth, and there is no fifth level tumah, even in Kodesh, even in the Beis Hamikdash and in Kachim, and therefore they were correct in saying that it's not tumah. Chagai also asked about Tashema Vayom Chagai Im Yiga Tamei Nefesh B'chol Eila Hayitma. What about if a Tamei Nefesh, which the Gemara now thinks means somebody who had come into contact with the deceased, which the person, since the deceased is Avi Avos, is a primary source of Tumah, somebody who comes into contact with a dead person, they themselves become a primary level Tumah, the same level as other primaries like the sheretz itself, like someone who had a bodily emission. So they are the first level, not the first level, they are primary level tumah, even though they themselves are not tummy, but they came into contact with a dead person, they themselves become a primary. And the question they asked the Kahanim was if this occurrence happened with the a tummy nefesh, what would be the halacha? Would it be tamei? Vayanu akahanim vayomru yitma. the Kohanim responded and said, yes, it becomes tamei. Now, Bishlam Shmuel midahacha leishtabish hasam nami leishtabish. Now, according to Shmuel, just as that's correct, it makes sense that the previous one was also correct, that they got both of them correct. But according to Rav, why would we have made a mistake by one and not the other? Why was there a mistake in regards to the in regards to the sheretz, the rodent, but not in regards to the tamei nefesh, somebody who came into contact with a dead person? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, bekim he betumas meis ve'bekim he betumas sheretz. Since tumas meis, the tumah that comes from a deceased person, is more severe and more common, so they were more familiar with that than the tumah of a tumas sheretz. And so they thought that they knew that in regards to tamei meis, a dead person, there is even a fourth level tumah, but they didn't realize that applies also to a sheretz. Ravina Amar Hasam Ravi Hachashlishi. However, Ravina says actually it's one level earlier, and it wasn't actually the way you understood that when he mentions tamei nefesh means somebody who came into contact with a dead person, but it's the dead person itself, and the bread touched the dead person, becoming a primary level tumah. Now the beans would then be a first level tumah, and the wine a second level tumah, and the oil a third level tumah, and that's what their mistake was, because they knew of a third level, they didn't know of a fourth level for kodesh, for kachim, because teruma still applied, and teruma has a third level, and the Beis Hamikdash had not been applicable for so long that they didn't realize that there was a fourth level tumah for things that go to the Beis Hamikdash for kodesh. Tashema, let's try and prove it from here. We'll come in here. Vayan Chagai veyomer kein ha'amazeh v'chein ha'goyazeh. Chagai responds to these tests, and he says, "Oh, these nations, this nation, they are correct, right? This nation is correct. This people is correct. V'chein kol ma'aseh yadeim, and also all the actions of their hands. V'asher yakrivu sham tamehu, and which they bring close with their hands, tamehu, it is tameh." So Gemara says, Bishlam el Rav, according to Rav, it makes sense. Hainu d'chsiv tameh, since they were mistaken, he says, that's why he says, look, whatever they're going to bring is going to be tameh, because they don't know the rules correctly. Elul of Shmuel, but according to Shmuel, amai tameh, why does he say that it is tameh? He ends the verse saying that they are tameh. What does he mean? So the Gemara answers, "Itamuhi kamitama." He's actually asking, not stating. It's not a statement; it's a question. Look how correct, and look how well they know this. Would they cause tumah? Would anything they do be wrong? And it says, but so too all their actions. So he says that this was the Navi said a statement which turned out to be a prophecy, that in the end the Kohanim in the second Beis Hamikdash had lost their path, had made mistakes, and really brought some devastating sins upon the Beis Hamikdash, and as we know from the Hanukkah story, that it started with some of the Kohanim going to the Greeks and in an internal fight and offering up the Beis Hamikdash to them. So so Chagai is prophesying that their actions themselves are going to end up being a kilkul, a destruction. Gufa. So now let's analyze the distinction that we said, that Rav says, even though that Yosef ben Yezer said the liquids in the slaughter area of the Beis Hamikdash are not susceptible to tumah, or they don't cause tumah. We saw Rav and Shmuel. The liquids from the Mizbeach do. So Gufa. So this is the body of the statement itself. Rav Tani Mashka Beis Midachaya. Rav says it's the liquids of the slaughter area, but not the liquids of the Mizbeach. V'Levi Tani Mashka Beis Midbachaya. And Levi says, no, even the liquids that go on the Mizbeach are not susceptible to tumah, or don't give, or don't pass on tumah, right? The two ways. So Levi Hanicha. So according to Levi, that says it's the liquids of the base of the Mizbeach as well, and that's why he mentions wine and oil. He had mentioned in Chagai had mentioned wine and oil. Now, Levi says that it's going on the liquids of the Mizbeach. So why did Chagai bring an example of wine and oil? Those are not susceptible to tumah. So we're going to have to say that he understands like Shmuel, who says, no, Yosef ben Yezer only testified that it doesn't cause other things tumah, but it itself would become tameh. So the Levi Hanicha Svir like Shmuel. It would be appropriate and make sense if he learns like Shmuel. The Omar, the that that Yosef ben Yezer testified that the liquids in the Beis Hamikdash are non-tameh, they are pure. That's only in regards to causing tumah to other things, but they themselves are susceptible and do become tameh. They do become tameh. So mishkachas. And then we can understand Chagai, but we would have to change the meaning of the verse from what we understood until now. The Nagi Kula Berisha, that Chagai was not asking him about a succession of touching, where the rodent, the sherets had touched the bread, and in turn the bread touched the nazid, the beans, and then the beans in turn touched the wine, and the wine in turn touched the oil. But rather, his question was, if the primary source of tumah, the sherets, touched any of these, it touched bread, or it touched, the rodent, the sherets, touched the nazid, or it touched the wine, or it touched the oil, but not in succession, because the wine cannot cause tumah to the oil. Eli savar lekarav. However, if Levi follows the opinion of Rav, that when Yosef ben Yezer said there's no tumah to liquids in the base midbachaya, it means also the mizbeach. So wine and oil, not only they don't cause tumah, but they're not even susceptible to tumah themselves. So then what's Chagai asking? Dama dechein mamish, that they are completely pure, meaning they're not even susceptible to tumah. How would he interpret the verse from Chagai? So we have to prove from this that Levi, who says that the meaning of Yosef ben Yezer's testimony that said that liquids in the Beis Hamikdash were not susceptible to tumah, or even liquids that go on the Mizbeach, must be that he understands the verse in Chagai that they are susceptible to tumah, even though they can't cause tumah, and that would be the opinion of Shmuel, that the testimony of Yosef ben Yezer about the liquids in the Beis Hamikdash were only in regards to causing tumah. They themselves are susceptible to tumah. All liquids would be susceptible to tumah, even in the Beis Hamikdash. They're simply not going to cause tumah to anything else. So Levi must learn like Shmuel. Hani chesvirle karav. Shmuel, and Shmuel says that all liquids are susceptible to tumah. But they were Yosef ben Yezer's testimony was only in regards to it not causing tumah. So it would be good if he understands, like Rav, that the liquids of the mizbeach are susceptible and cause tumah, and it's only the liquids of the slaughter area, meaning water and blood, that are susceptible to tumah alone, but they will not cause tumah. So that makes sense. The Tani Mashka Beis Mitbachaya. And therefore, it's only Yosef ben Yezer only testified about the liquids in the slaughter area. But the water, the liquids that go on the mizbeach, which are oil and wine, they can cause tumah to other things. And therefore, in the scenario of Chagai, Ravi, the sheretz had touched the bread had touched the nazid had touched the wine, which can cause tumah to the oil, and so the oil would be a fourth level tumah. Reviewed of it, delay metame reviewed delay of it chamishi shlishi of it revi, and therefore the fourth thing cannot cause a fifth level tumah, because if you remember, Shmuel understood it to be that there was something before the bread as well. So the wine cannot cause tumah to the oil as it's a fifth level tumah, but it could cause, if it was a third level, causing a fourth, it would work. Eli Savalaka Levi. What if it follows the opinion of Levi that also the liquids of the base of the mizbeach are not included in tumah, meaning they can be susceptible but not cause tumah? The Tani Mashka Beimid B'chaya, even the liquids on the mizbeach don't cause tumah to other things. My irya ravi delay of it chamishi. So why did he ask him about such an extended level, that a fourth level tumah of wine cannot cause a fifth level? Afilu sheni v'shlishi. Even a first and second level tumah, a second and third level tumah can also not be caused, because you just said that his understanding of the testimony of Yosef ben Yezer, that the liquids of the Beis Hamikdash were referring not only to the slaughter area, meaning water and blood, but also to the mizbeach, meaning wine and oil. They are all four of these are not going to cause tumah to something else. They themselves can be susceptible to tumah according to Shmuel, but they will not cause tumah to anything else. And therefore, even in a second level or third level, why did Chagai have to extend it to a fifth level? Al kochar karav svirale. And therefore, that would seem to prove that Shmuel follows the opinion of Rav, that Yosef ben Yezer's testimony was only about the liquids from the mitbachaya, which is the slaughter area. But midbachaya, the mizbeach, that goes on the altar, those liquids Yosef ben Yezer never testified about, and those indeed not only are susceptible to tumah, but can cause tumah to other things as well. So Tanya Kavasei the Rav and Tanya Kavasei the Levi. We have a brisa concurring with Rav that the liquids that Yosef ben Yezer testified about were only the slaughter area, but on the mizbeach, the liquids that go on the mizbeach are susceptible. Do cause tumah, or are susceptible to tumah. And Tani Kavasi the Levi, and we have proof with Levi that it was referring to not only water and blood, which are the slaughter area liquids, but also the mizbeach liquids, which are wine and oil. So Amar explains. Tani Kavasei the Levi. We have a brisa that concurs with Levi. Hadam v'hayayin v'hashemen v'hamayin mashke beimid b'chayim. Blood and wine and oil and water, the liquids that are by the mizbeach, shenitmu, that became tameh, bifnim, it became tameh while in the area of the mizbeach, meaning in the azara, in the courtyard. V'tzian lechutz. And now you took them out. When you take them out, they become invalid. Once they leave the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, they become invalid. It can no longer go back on the mizbeach. And yet, tahor, they remain tahor, because the tumah happened in a place that the tumah, they are not susceptible to tumah, or it can't cause tumah. So we see that these four liquids, all four of them, are going to have this special rule of that they are not susceptible or don't cause tumah. And since the tumah happened to them in the courtyard, it won't take effect. Even though that they subsequently were taken out, where they no longer are kodesh because they were defiled by taking out, and they become invalid, nevertheless, it remains that the initial tumah was in a place that tumah cannot affect them in a regular way, and therefore they remain in that state. However, if it was the other way around, nitma'u b'chutz, these four liquids, either of these four liquids that became tamei outside of the Beis Hamikdash and then were brought into the Beis Hamikdash, v'chnisam ifnim, tamein, since at the time that they became tamei, or the place that they became tamei, tumah doesn't take effect on those liquids. And therefore, even you bring it into the Beis Hamikdash afterwards, where they are now in the place that tumah cannot take effect on them, too late, it was already effective. Gemara says, Eini, Wait, but we learned that Rabbi Shua Levi said that this testimony of Yosef ben Yezer, that the liquids of the Beis Hamikdash, of the slaughter area in the Beis Hamikdash, or the Mizbeach, are pure, meaning that the tumah doesn't affect them regularly, and they don't apply typically, is only in their place. But what it means is once you take it out, the tumah now will retroactively come onto them. Wouldn't you say that it means even if it became tummy inside and then was brought out, that the tumah will retroactively come upon them? No. Now what it means is that if the tumah took effect while in the area of the mizbeach, that's where we say that they are pure, that they are not tummy. But if it happened outside, then they will become tummy. But it says in its place. This is what it means. It's where the tumah took effect. If it took effect in its place, meaning in the Beis Hamikdash, then it doesn't take effect. If the tumah happened outside of the Beis Hamikdash and then they were brought in, it will have taken effect outside of its place. In any case, so we have proof to Levi that Levi says that the tumah applies to the four liquids, not only to the liquids of the slaughter area in the Beis Hamikdash, which is the blood and water, but it also applies to wine and oil, which are on the mizbeach, that go on the mizbeach. Tanya Kava say the Rav. However, we have a brisa that seems to concur with Rav. Hadam v'hamayim mashke mitbachaya. Blood and water, the liquids of the slaughter area in the Beis Hamikdash, shenitmu, that became tamei. Bein bekalim, bein bekarka, regardless of whether they were in vessels or they were on the ground. Taharim, they are tahor and are not susceptible to tumah according to Rav. They won't even become tamei themselves. Now we turn to 17b Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Rabbi Shimon Omer. However, Rabbi Shimon says bekalim tameim. In vessels, they are tamei, because Rabbi Shimon, if you remember, learned earlier that there is a liquid, a tumah to liquids on a Torah level, even to cause tumah to other things, and that's why Rabbi Shimon said when there was a doubt whether tumah, whether the liquid, a tamei liquid touched foods, that the foods we'd have to be strict and say that they are tamei. So therefore, in the vessels, you can't say that they're going to be tahor, because it's not a rabbinic matter. Yosef ben Yezer said that he testified about the liquids in the Beis Hamikdash, that they are tahor, was based upon the idea that this is a rabbinic tumah. And being that's a rabbinic tumah, in the Beis Hamikdash, the Rabbanan did not enact their additional tumah, because they're causing extra tumah in the Beis Hamikdash. Why would they do that? They want to minimize tumah in the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore they actually did not enact it over there. That's the testimony of Yosef ben Yezer, but Rabbi Shimon can't say that. He can't agree with that, because in Rabbi Shimon's opinion, tumah of liquids to not only be tamei itself, but to cause tumah to food is going to be a Torah concept. And so it applies in the Beis Hamikdash, just like anywhere else, because it's not rabbinic. And therefore he says, in a vessel, it's going to be tamei.
However, could I ask a question? Just going back a little bit. In the psukim from Chagai, so we have Chagai.
Wait a second. Let's hold on for a second. I want to finish Rabbi Shimon so we get the train of thought. 1 second.
All
right. So Rabbi Shimon says, who holds that it's a Torah level tumah. He says these liquids, water or blood in a vessel, is going to be tamei. However, bekarka tahor. But if it's in the ground, it's on the floor, then it's going to be tahor. And this is based on something else entirely. Not because the liquids are not susceptible to tumah. They are susceptible to tumah. But this water on the ground is going to act as a mikvah. And the halacha is that really a mikveh that we say a mikveh needs 40 seah. It needs a minimum of 40 seah, which is about a foot and a half, a pit about a foot and a half by 4.5 feet deep, 1 by 1.5 by 1.5, and that would be the area that holds this water. That would be 40 seah, and that's a minimum mikveh. But that's true for humans. But for vessels, a needle that became tummy, a fork that became tummy, only needs a revius of water, a tiny bit of water, which is, let's say, 3 ounces, and that would be sufficient. And a mikveh, being that it is a source of purity, of tahara, cannot become tummy. Imagine if a mikveh becomes tummy, so anytime somebody's tummy goes into the mikveh, instead of them becoming tahar, purified, they're making the water tummy. So the very essence of mikveh means that it is not susceptible to tumah, and that's why if it's on the ground, it acts as a mikveh. Now, even though, as we'll see soon, the Chachamim enacted and said all mikvahs need to be 40 seah so that people don't mistake and make it think that a mikveh that's less than 40 seah can even be valid for a human. So even for vessels, we say a mikveh has to have 40 seah. That's okay. However, that's rabbinic, and in the Beis Hamikdash, in order not to add tumah, a liquid on the ground in the slaughter area, a water on the ground is not going to be susceptible to tumah on account of that it acts as a mikveh, and that's what Rabbi Shimon means in this brisa. So we have a proof text to Rav who says, because it says only the blood and the water are not susceptible to tumah. And Rabbi Shimon says, no, in a vessel that will be susceptible to tumah, on the ground they will not. Yes, Michael, what was the question?
Well, it's kind of like I have to rewind the tape, but with Haggai, so he's not just a Tana. He's a Navi. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him a nevuah to say. He gave him this test. He gave the Kohanim this examination. Okay, and we're trying to understand from the question. We're trying to discern whether that's a smoking gun proof that you see mashkim could become makabel, could be makabel tuma and be metame or not, depending on how we're interpreting it. Right? That's the whole idea?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they flunked.
No, Shmuel says they got it right.
No, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu said no. They flunked. According to the Abish, they flunked.
No, it's a question according to Shmuel. Shmuel says it was a question. Would they cause tumah? These are great. They got it.
So they say that's what the Abish said, but Tmiya?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the Gemara's question on the third wide line in the previous daf, Amit. And the Gemara says, according to Shmuel, what it means is asking it as a question. They got this right. They got the answers right. Are they going to cause tumah in the Beis Hamikdash? No, they're great.
All right.
Amar of Papa. We're in the second line of Yud Zayin Amid Beis. Amar of Papa said, "Afilu leman amar tumas mashkin da araisa, mashkin beis mitmachaya hilchas gemirla." So Rav Papa said, even according to the opinion that says that the liquids of the base mitbachaya are going to be susceptible to tumah. In other words, that these liquids do cause tumah. Nevertheless, the halacha it's a halacha mashmei Sinai that they do not cause tumah. Amalei Rav Huna b'reider Rav Nasan l'Rav Papa. So Rav Huna b'reider Rav Nasan said to Rav Papa, I think you're mistaken here. Ve'lohad Amar Rabbi Lazar. Well, what about Rabbi Lazar's statement, Ein tumah l'mashkin kol ikar? This that we say, that he says that there is no such concept of tumah to liquids. Teda, and he brings proof. Sharei Heyed Yosef ben Yezer is straight because Yosef ben Yezer is straight testified al mashke beis mit b'chai dechein that the liquids of the slaughter area are tahor, are pure. And if it is a halacha l'meshim Sinai, meaning that this is a specific rule for the Beis Hamikdash as a halacha l'meshim Sinai, migamrina mina, can we then use that as proof to elsewhere and say that there is no tumah to liquids? No, the very fact that you have a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, a special rule by tradition from Moshe, that that liquids of the Beis Hamikdash don't cause tuma or are not susceptible to tuma. How can Rabbi Lazar compare that to anything else? It's a special rule for there. That's a halacha Moshe Sinai. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, Vahar Rabbi Shimon, and Ravina said to Ravashi, the same with Rabbi Shimon, the Amar Tumas Mashka D'Oraisa, and he says that liquid have a tuma from as a Torah concept. The Tanya, as we learned, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, as we learned in the previous a few days ago, in the beginning of this discussion of liquids, where Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yossi both said that if there's a doubt of whether a tuma of liquid touched food, we have to be strict. If we have a doubt of whether it touched vessels, we can be lenient, because liquids will cause tuma to food on a Torah level, and so therefore we have to be strict if we're uncertain, and it causes rabbinic tuma to vessels, and therefore we can be lenient if there's a doubt. So again, we see that there's a Torah concept. V'hachaka amar Rabbi Shimon b'kelim tamei mekarka taharim, and here Rabbi Shimon says this concept that therefore there's tuma in the Beis Hamikdash itself for liquids in a vessel. It's only on the ground that won't be tamei because it acts as a mikveh, but in a vessel it's going to be tamei. And if you tell me it's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai from Moshe, there's a tradition from Sinai straight down to us that tells us that there's no tuma in the Beis Hamikdash for liquids. How could Rabbi Shimon say this? Mali bekelim, mali bekarka. What distinction would there be in vessels or in the ground? It's all the same halacha. Kasha. So indeed, this is a contradiction to Rav Papa, and it was a mistake. There is no halacha Moshe Sinai about this about liquids. Amar of Papa. Further, Rav Papa said, "Hada amres karka tahirin." This that we said that according to Rabbi Shimon, liquids on the ground are not susceptible to tuma and they are tahar. Lashanu ela b'mayim. He's only referring to water. He's not referring to blood. Aval dam loy. He's not referring to blood because there is no concept of mikvah in blood. Umayim nami lo yamar dahaver revius. And liquid also has to have the minimum size of a mikvah, which is going to be a revius, which is approximately 3 ounces. The chazi lahatma machtem and sinoris. And what kind of mikvah is that? What can you dunk in a puddle of 3 ounces on the ground? A needle, a tool that was used in the Beis Hamikdash. So those things, a carving tool. So those are susceptible to tumah. They're metal vessels, and they need to go to the mikveh if they did become tummy. And a little puddle of 3 ounces on the ground of the Beis Hamikdash is a valid mikveh. Avalei have a revius to me, but if it's even less than a revius, it's less than the let's say 3 ounces. That's not going to be sufficient to count as a mikveh, and therefore it is susceptible to tumah. So we are analyzing the various opinions of the halacha of liquids being tummy. And the one opinion we had was Rabbi Yehuda, who said, lakol tummy, that liquids cause tumah to all items. Not only are they susceptible to tumah themselves, liquids can also cause tumah to everything. Amar Mar Rabbi Yehuda Emer, lakol tummy, that it causes tumah to everything. Lememra, which seems to be saying, the Savar Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion, tumas mashkel atamet tumas kalim de oraisa, that liquids, not only are they susceptible to tumah themselves, but when they are tumah, they can even cause tumah to other items, not only to food items, but even to vessels. And this would be a Torah concept. Vatanan, well, we have a contradiction. Kol ha'kelim sheyesh lem acharayim etuch, all vessels that can be used inside and the outside. So what are these? Kegoyin hakorim, pillowcases, vakasosas, and covers, vasakin, sackcloth, martzufin, and leather pouches. Nitma tochoy, nitma gabay. If the inner side becomes tamei, the outside becomes tamei as well. nitma gabe. However, if the tuma came into contact with its outer side, loy nitma toiche. The inside does not become tummy. Now, on a Torah level, there's no such concept. On a Torah level, if anything becomes tummy, whether it's inside or it's outside, wherever the tuma comes into contact with the vessel, the entire vessel becomes tummy. However, on tuma derabana, rabbinic tumas, the Chachamim wanted to distinguish and make sure that people recognize what's a Torah level tuma and what's a rabbinic level tuma. So the distinction, one of the distinctions that the Chachamim made about tuma derabanan, they said that if it touches the inside, the entire vessel is tummy. But if it comes into contact with the outside, the inside is not tummy, only the outside is tummy. In this way, people would know, oh, that's a rabbinic tuma. That's not a Torah level tuma. So if these vessels are becoming tummy on the outside, and only the outside is tummy, not the inside, that tells us it's a rabbinic tuma. So how can you tell me, according to Rabbi Yehuda, liquids can cause a vessel to be tummy on a Torah level? We see that the inside doesn't become tummy if it touched the outside, telling us that it is not a Torah level tuma, it's a rabbinic level tuma. Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'medvar mamurim shenitmu machmas mashkin. And Rabbi Yehuda says this is only when it got tuma through liquids, telling us that liquids are rabbinic in nature. Aval nitmu machmas sheretz nitmu toicha nitma gabe nitma toicha. But if a sheretz touched it, which is a Torah level tuma, so then the vessel will be tummy on the inside, the outside, regardless of which way where it got touched. So the Gemara ends its question by saying, "V'salka daitach tumas mashkin l'tamakel d'oraisa." So if you think that liquids can cause a Torah level tuma to vessels, mali nitma machmas mashkin, mali nitma machmas sheretz. So why does he make a distinction between liquids and a sheretz? Either way, the tuma should be primary enough that it causes tuma to inside or outside. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel Chazaber Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel that Rav Yehuda retracted his original statement, and indeed, the liquids cannot cause tuma to a vessel. However, Ravina Amar La'olam Lo Hadar. No, he did not retract. And that particular case where it says it's rabbinic in nature, the liquids are tamei in a rabbinic tuma. Not generally liquids can't become tamei, but those specific are talking about a tuma d'Rabbanan. And that's tumas yadayim. In Gemara and Shabbos, we saw 18 things. The Yud Ches Davar, so there the Chachamim had enacted certain tuma for the hands, and that's why we wash hands. Again, that's a rabbinic tuma, because in the Oraisa, on a Torah level tuma, there's no such thing as your hands are tummy, not the body. If your body's tummy, your hands are tummy. If your hands are tummy, your body's tummy. Again, that's a rabbinic tuma, so they made only for the hands and not for the rest of the body. And liquids from such a tuma that came onto a vessel would be rabbinic in nature, and so therefore it would only make the outside tummy and not the inside. But liquids that are tummy from a sheretz, you're telling me, if it's a Torah level tuma, that would cause the inside tummy as well. So then why did he make a distinction between water and a sheretz? He should have made a distinction within water itself, within liquid itself. Make a distinction within itself. That inside is going to not become tummy if it's liquids habai machmas yadayim that were rabbinic in nature that came from the hands. Make that distinction and say even liquids can cause the inside to be tummy if it was a primary tumah, a Torah level tumah. So we must say that indeed Rabbi Yehuda retracted his original statement, and he does not hold that liquids can cause vessels tumah on a Torah level.